The church bells tolled in the distance, their solemn rhythm floating over the quiet streets. A sleek black car glided to a stop at the orphanage gates, its polished surface reflecting the gray afternoon sky. From inside stepped Mr. Raymond, tall and composed, his expensive shoes clicking against the cobblestones. His tailored suit fit him perfectly, yet his eyes betrayed something no fabric could hide: emptiness. For years, he had carried it like an invisible weight. The orphanage yard buzzed with the laughter and shouts of children at play. Some chased a worn-out ball, others huddled in small groups whispering secrets, their clothes patched and faded. Raymond stood still, his gaze sweeping over them with practiced detachment. He told himself he was here for business, nothing more, a man with wealth who wished to give a child a better life, a life without hunger or fear. But then his eyes landed on a boy sitting alone under a crooked tree. The child's small hands twisted the frayed hem of his shirt, his feet dangling above the dirt as he stared at nothing in particular. Unlike the others, he did not laugh, did not shout. His silence wrapped around him like a fragile shield. Something stirred inside Raymond, an ache that made his throat tighten. He adjusted his cufflinks, trying to shake off the feeling. Yet no matter how he tried to look elsewhere, his gaze kept returning to that boy with the distant eyes. It was as if an invisible thread had tied them together, tugging at a place in his heart he thought had long since withered. For the first time in years, Mr. Raymond felt something he could not name, something that unsettled him, something that almost frightened him.
He froze halfway down the hallway, every nerve in his body alert. At first, he thought he had imagined it, but then the sound came again. A whimper, soft and broken, the kind that came from a child trying to cry without being heard. His chest tightened until it was hard to breathe. Then, layered over the whimper, came another sound, sharper, cutting through the quiet like a knife. His wife's voice. Cold, clipped words hissed in frustration, each syllable landing with the sting of something cruel. He stopped dead, the air thick with disbelief. His mind scrambled for an explanation, maybe she was scolding, maybe he was mishearing, but then he caught the tremor in his daughter's voice, the pleading swallowed by fear. His heart pounded. The keys still in his hand rattled softly, betraying the tremor in his fingers. He clenched them into a fist and forced himself to move forward. Every step toward that door felt heavier, as though the house itself resisted him. The closer he got, the clearer it became. His wife's tone wasn't stern, it was vicious. And his daughter's small voice cracked under the weight of it. His jaw locked. For years he had trusted this home to be safe, to be the place where love lived for his little girl. But with each passing second, that trust unraveled, replaced by a surge of dread and rage that shook him to his core. He reached the doorway. The door wasn't closed all the way, just enough for him to see the thin slice of light spilling into the hallway, just enough to hear his child's stifled sob. His hand hovered near the wood, every muscle in his body straining between fear of what he might find, and the certainty that he could no longer turn away. He pressed his palm against the door and eased it open, just enough to widen the sliver of light into a full picture, and what he saw rooted him to the spot. His little girl was huddled in the corner of her bed, clutching her stuffed rabbit so tightly its ears bent backward. Her cheeks glistened with tears, her tiny shoulders shaking as she tried to make herself small, invisible. Every sob she swallowed seemed to wound her more than release her. Towering above her was his wife. Her hair was disheveled, her face tight with rage, and her hand was raised mid-swing. Her voice lashed out in a harsh, venomous tone, "Why won't you ever listen? Do you want me to make you sorry?" The words sliced through him like glass. For a moment, the world tunneled, her towering figure, their daughter's trembling body, the suffocating air of fear. He felt sick, rage boiling hot and cold all at once, an ache that started in his chest and spread through every muscle. His daughter's eyes flicked toward the doorway then, wide and desperate, and in them he saw everything: fear, helplessness, and a silent plea for him to save her. His hand clenched into a fist against the doorframe. The paper bag of food he had carried home, once a symbol of surprise and joy, lay forgotten somewhere behind him. All that mattered now was the child crying before him, and the woman he thought he knew, transformed into something he could barely recognize. He stepped fully into the room, his voice breaking out like a thunderclap. "Stop." The word cut through the tension so sharply that both of them jolted, his wife spinning toward him, his daughter scrambling off the bed and running straight into his arms, sobbing into his shirt. And in that moment, the house was no longer quiet. It was filled with his daughter's desperate cries and the deafening sound of a truth he could no longer ignore.